Skylark family? Hope you're doing good. Hope you're well. So this month is Black History Month, and I'm reminded of some of the lessons I had at school about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and how important they were in the fight against racism at that time, and all the things they did and what they stood for and what it cost them to stand against racism. Now, in the future, well, in the present, when I think about Black History Month, I think about the young men and women now who speak out against racism, who still have to speak out against racism, because it's not as obvious, it's not as plain to see anymore. And I'm encouraged because I see a lot of them using their platforms really, really bravely and really well. One of the examples I wanted to draw from today was a football player. His name is Raheem Sterling. So if you know me, you know I love football, so we were always going to go here. So Raheem Sterling plays for Manchester City and represents England at the highest level. So he has a massive profile globally. And he was racially abused at a football game by a fan, an opposition fan. And in the days to come, instead of him addressing that and saying, you know, what had happened to him was terrible, and he kind of would condemn what the fan did, he decided instead to highlight an injustice against one of his teammates, a younger player who'd not, you know, seen the heights that he had yet, but was suffering abuse through the media's portrayal of him. Now, that young player and another young player, both for the same team, have decided to buy their parents a house, which is amazing. One was reported as splashing £2.5 million on a mansion, despite even, you know, not even starting a game for Manchester City yet. So how dare he? He's not even started a game, he's splashing all the money. Whereas the other one was a starlet. The other one was was written as a starlet, and it was an amazing thing that he bought his mum a house, you know, and we know that buying your parents a house is incredible. It's an incredible show of generosity. So, Ava, if you're watching in the future, please buy me a house. But what was really, really important about what Raheem posted about his two teammates was that there was a disproportionate level of reporting when it came to the language used. Now, these things are microaggressions. And what they tend to do is build a narrative about a black player versus a white player. And then what that will do is breed a view of people that look like me versus someone who doesn't look like me. And Raheem used his platform so bravely, and it was extremely influential because he has millions of people that follow him. So to speak out on something like this was to give loads of other people a voice. Loads of other people who work, you know, in the corporate scene or the music scene or whatever industry, who may have suffered these same kinds of microaggressions. He's given them a voice now. He's given them something to attach themselves to and say, I know how that feels, and I want to see that change too. So within his footballing industry, now there's conversations about how commentators report on players that are black. You know, are they beasts? You know, are they just naturally fast, naturally big and strong? No, they work hard, they train hard, they dedicate their lives to achieving that level of a high output. But in order for him to enable, you know, sports media to change the narrative around black players, he had to speak out, he had to be vulnerable, he had to put himself and his career on the line. Traditionally, sportsmen and women, professionals, don't speak out on stuff like this because of risk of losing, you know, their place in their team or sponsorship deals. And I was encouraged by this because this was a young man who had everything to lose, but saw this cause as one worth losing everything for. And I'm reminded so much of Jesus when I think about selfless acts like that. I'm reminded of his story in Matthew 25, when he talks about, you know, being hungry and you gave him nothing to eat, thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink, and I was a stranger and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes and you didn't clothe me. And, you know, in the story, the reply is, you know, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or in need? And he replied, truly I tell you, Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. So when I think about Black History now, in the context of 2020, this crazy year, and what we all now know and what we all now see, will we turn a blind eye? Will we brush it under the carpet? Will we give it an excuse to not address, to not speak about, to not change? Will we see it as too hard an issue to bring up within our families, our friendship groups, our workplace? So I think this Black History Month, Jesus is calling us to see this as more than just a month to be reminded of Black history. But I think he's wanting us to see this as a month that we can use as a catalyst for change in the rest of our life.